And I wanted to start this segment by saying that Abraham Lincoln's mother lie back in Indiana in a grave on a hill overlooking the cabin, but without a proper tombstone. In November of 1819, Father Thomas Lincoln came to the two kids. The girl was 12 and Abraham was 10. And the girl had acted to try to be mother, sister, wife, clean house, cook things at age 12. And he told him he had to go back to Elizabethtown. He had to go back the route they came, but there was a road there this time. He was leaving them, Sarah 12, Abraham 10, there at the cabin by themselves in November 1819. So he went back in his wagon, didn't tell him exactly what he was going to do, and he would go there from Spencer County, Indiana, in the southwest part of Indiana, to Elizabethtown, Kentucky. And he went there to find a woman, a wife, a mother for the kids. He got back there and he looked up this woman, Sarah Bush, whom he had a crush on as a young man and who had jilted him for the jailer of Elizabethtown, a man named Johnston. He found her and found out, just unknowingly, she had lost her husband. And he said, Sari, and she had a nickname there, Sari or Sally, I want to marry you. There's no courtship there or anything. I've got some children, you've got some children. She said, I can't do that. I have debts I've accrued since my husband died, and I can't give you my debts. So he said, that's all right. We'll work them out. We'll take care of them. So Sarah Bush Johnston married Abraham Lincoln's father on December 2nd, 1819. They took the wagon to her house, and she piled things in it, pots and pans and mattresses and furniture and bureaus and chests of drawers. And they headed for Indiana. Well, when they got there, here's these two little kids that had been there over a month by themselves. They were dirty, they were cold, they were scared, they were lonesome. And as we're unloading things, Sarah and Abraham saw things they'd never seen before. And she presented Abraham with a feather pillow and mattress of his own that he put up in the loft of the cabin. He never forgot what his stepmother gave him. Never forgot. Now, she would scrub those kids, soap those kids, dry those kids, mend their clothes and make them look like human beings instead of urchins. So now in that 18-by-20 cabin, there's Thomas Lincoln, the father, Sarah Bush Johnston Lincoln, the stepmother, Tom's two kids, Sarah's three kids, and Dennis Hanks, the cousin. And Lincoln, as I said, grew from being a boy when he got there to an adult by definition and age when they left there. Gentryville was where the store was. And that was named after Mr. Gentry. And he asked Abraham Lincoln, whose strength was prodigious in that area, he said, would you and my son and another man take a flatboat down to New Orleans? And so they loaded up livestock and grain and produce. When they got to New Orleans, they docked or anchored. And that night, the three of them went to sleep with clubs underneath their chest because they knew that pirates or thugs would attack boats at night to look for money and take the produce and things. So they were sleeping there on their flatboat at New Orleans. 7 thugs attacked the 3, and they fought them off. But Abraham Lincoln made a name for himself in physical legend. He hit a lot of guys with that club he'd carried down there, but they got some licks in too, and he got a cut over his right eye, and he carried a scar until the day John Wilkes Booth shot him. He came back, and the Lincolns would, as I said, be there until the year 1830. And then they would pack things up because of very cold weather, because of milk sickness spreading in that region, and because of Tom not being able to make any money by farming. So they'd pack up the wagon, they would head to Macon County, Illinois. And Abraham Lincoln helped split the rails, he helped plow the fields, he helped chop wood, he helped plant for 1 year. And then he went to a place called New Salem on a bluff overlooking the Sangamon River. It's no longer there, the town he lived in. They rebuilt it after it died as a memorial. The family would go from Macon County, Illinois to Coles County. There, Thomas Lincoln would die in 1851. Lincoln did not go to his funeral. He answered the letter. He thought it would be too painful for everybody involved if he came to see his father buried. Sarah Bush Johnston would die there. And Abraham Lincoln would go to kiss her goodbye before he went to be president. So he's in New Salem. And it was in New Salem where he had to be initiated. A newcomer had to prove himself, prove that he was indeed worthy to be part of the gang, and to loaf there at the general store and to talk to the politicians. Now, Abraham Lincoln always entertained his friends, girls and boys, because he would sit and watch preachers preach on Sunday, listen to politicians give speech, then he'd go out in the woods and just walk around now after and memorize these things, then imitate them in front of his friends. But he loved his stepmother. He said something one time which befuddles all of us historians. All that I am or all I ever hope to be, I owe to my dear beloved mother. And historians argue where it meant Nancy Hanks, the mother who bore him, or Sarah Bush Johnson, the mother who got books for him and cleaned his clothes and things. We don't know which mother or if both that's attributed to. Now, this is entitled Family, Friends, and Foes. His friends, he said one time, the man who gives me a book I ain't never read is my best friend. And he dearly loved the people who loaned him books because he loved to read. He became known there in Illinois for his athletic skills, for his funny stories, for his prodigious feats. Let's look inside this man's heart and mind at some of his concern and caring while in Indiana and Illinois. He was known in the area for carrying drunks home who passed out that would have frozen to death in the winter. He'd throw them over his shoulder like a sack of potatoes and carry them home. One time while traveling in a stagecoach, he looked out the window and he saw a small piglet trapped in a bog, a swampy area of mud. And it kept moving down the road, and he just couldn't let that go. He had his only suit of clothes on. Didn't fit him well, but it was his only suit. He told him to stop. He walked back, rolled up his pants, kept his hat on but took off his coat, walked out in the mud up almost to his knees, and picked the pig up and cleaned it off and put it somewhere else. While on the move as a family, their family dog fell in the river through the ice. Lincoln jumped in, retrieved the dog, saved the dog's life. But at a very, very young age in Kentucky, Lincoln and his family saw a flock of wild turkey out in front of the cabin. And having watched his dad, he went and got the gun. He put it through a section of the unchinked logs, aimed at the flock, and pulled the trigger. Abraham Lincoln, a boy, killed a wild turkey. He went out because he knew that meant food. He went out to pick it up, and it was so mangled by the shot, he started crying and vowed he would never kill an animal hunting again for food or recreation. Loss of life touched him dearly. He would have a dog when he went to be president named Fido, and he could not take the dog on the train to Washington with the family, so he left it in Springfield. And a drunk would kill Fido, and that hurt him too when he heard about it. He had a horse he left there named Bob, old Bob. And when he went back there dead for his funeral, old Bob helped lead the procession. He loved animals, loved trying to help animals, and he loved trying to help people. One time he saw a man chopping firewood with rags wrapped around his feet up to his calves. He asked the man, "Where's your shoes?" "Well, I don't have any. I'm chopping wood here to try to earn money to buy some boots." Lincoln said, "Go to the store, charge your boots in my name, give me the axe." And Lincoln stood there and chopped the wood the man was attempting to chop to buy some boots. He's a kind-hearted man. He loved his mother, Nancy Hanks. He loved Sarah Bush Johnson because the other kids, which would number 4 of them, they would say, "Boy, Abraham's strange. Look at him. He's leaning back in that chair. He's reading this book by the firelight. He's slapping his thighs, laughing. Why does he always read?" And she would say, "Don't make fun of Abraham. One day he'll be a famous man. One day." So his stepmother gave him that pillow on the mattress and sheltered him quite a bit. His father and he were never close. And he said that my father's always been, despite the fact that he's a man, a wandering boy who does not stick at one thing but makes good coffins and good cabinets. Now, this Dennis Hanks, whom he called his cousin, whom these sparrows had raised, would make ink for him. and listen to this carefully, none of you in this audience ever had it this hard. Dennis Hanks made ink out of blackberry juice, briar roots, and added a little copperas to it. And he got Lincoln a turkey buzzard feather and sharpened it to be a quill to write with. Abraham Lincoln, your greatest president by far, started out as a young boy taking charcoal out of the fireplace or a burned stick and writing on a board that his father hadn't used as a carpenter. Now, he would write on this until the board became black with charcoal. Then he'd take his dad's knife and shave off the wood on the board so he could write on it again. As was customary at the time, he made his own sum book, his own book of where he did his arithmetic homework. And at these two schools, he merely studied reading, writing, and arithmetic. And he signed his name over and over and over and over. And his mother kept saying to the other kids, "He'll be famous someday. He'll be a great man." You can say you saw him sign his name over and over again. Now, he would do things for neighbors. He would help them with their chores and their work and things like that, like, say, help drunks and things. He had a lot of friends, but he also had some enemies. Since he was so strong in the back, the arms, the legs, everybody wanted to see if they could whip him. And when there was some injustice done to a pig, to a horse, to a friend, a family, Abraham Lincoln jumped in. He didn't hesitate. And he wouldn't hurt people. He didn't hit them with his fists or kick them. He would pick them up and throw them. I often said, if they had the modern Olympic Games when Abraham Lincoln were alive, I think he could have won a few gold medals. The man was so strong, he just had to be trained. It was uncanny. These foes that he had were people who picked on him who didn't know him, tried to embarrass him. He usually would set him straight. Whether you're looking in the eye the most famous wrestler in New Salem, or your Secretary of State who's told people that you're kind of a bumpkin or a hillbilly, you don't know anything, but they'll try to guide you along as president. Once you push Abraham Lincoln in the corner, and it's one-on-one, you and him, through his physical strength, or his intelligence, or his uncanny reasoning, or his ability to explain, he will embarrass you. He will embarrass you and let you know who's in charge, whether it's in New Salem in the country store, or whether it be in Washington. He had to take jobs in New Salem since he wasn't with the family. So he tended store for a man. And as he said, that store winked out, it failed. It was like a country general store. Another man came to him named William F. Berry and said, "I want you to be my partner in the store." Said, "We'll sell a lot of goods and stuff." So William F. Berry and Abraham Lincoln linked up in this second store in New Salem. And there, Mr. Berry died, and they hadn't paid off the mortgage yet. So Abraham Lincoln had the store, and it failed too. And when it failed, Abraham Lincoln owed $1,100 of the debt that he and Mr. Berry had assumed. Abraham Lincoln, for years, paid off that debt, and that's where we get the name Honest Abe Lincoln.